Hi, I'm back and I am building a magical wizard mansion on this lot here. This is Creekside Corner in Glimmerbrook. I almost forgot the name of the world. And this isn't going to be a mansion for just any wizard in general. This is going to be a mansion for the Sage of Untamed magic. So if you're unfamiliar with this pack realm of magic, there is like this, magic realm, as the name suggests. And in the magic realm, there are 3 sages and each one represents kind of like the elements of magic that there is in the pack. And one of those elements is untamed magic. And so yeah, we're going to be building this house for that person. And you might be thinking of Morgan with a Y, not to be confused with Morgan with an A, because that is the sim that is the Sage of Untamed Magic by default. As in, whenever you start a new save and then visit that magic realm, you're gonna meet Morgan with a Y. But no, I am building this for any Sage of Untamed Magic in general, because I may or may not have encountered them in my own gameplay and ended up needing a house for them for the story that ended up happening in my gameplay. Because in the save that I've been playing in, I don't have any of the original sages anymore. I don't know what happened to them. I'm kind of worried. But yeah, more on that story that happened there later on. Oh, and I should clarify this here. You might be expecting, if you have seen the previous videos I made, that I'm making this for my own custom save file. As in, for the save file that I'm building and want to eventually publish and make available to download somewhere. Because that is what I usually do on here. But not this time. This time I'm building this for, as I just explained, my own gameplay. Which is also why I went completely ham with the packs. When it comes to my custom save file, I like to be smart and limit packs a little bit. But not this time. Because this building is really just, well, for me. And that's also why at first I didn't even know if I should record this, but then I was like, what if I really like it and want to make a video out of it? And well, I really liked it and now making a video out of it. But as you can see, the building itself is quite a weird shape. I was thinking of making like a little courtyard because I thought that could be quite fancy, but this lot is not big enough for that. And also I didn't want to build a house that was that big either. So instead I was like, what if I try and make like a semi-courtyard? Which I'm not sure if that's a thing, but it's a thing now. And I really quite like how this turned out. And then another cool idea that I had for this place is kind of have the first floor or the ground floor, whichever one you call it, be out of stone and kind of look like the foundation. And I kind of made it into like a basement basically at ground level. And when it comes to the color scheme of this place, Untamed Magic has kind of like a red and yellow theme and therefore also kind of orange theme, I feel like. So that's what I went with mostly. Oh, and right now I'm making a really cool detail, which is a landing platform. You see, spellcasters that come with this pack can use brooms to fly around, and I was like, what if I make a little platform that they can land on with their broom? And this actually did not work out as I wanted it to, or as I expected it to, and you're going to see that in a bit when I playtest a lot. So what I wanted to do originally is have a little room up there in the top floor be only accessible to spellcasters if they have a broom, and so basically have that landing platform be the only way that you can get in there. And I thought that if you told a spellcaster to do something up there in the room, they would just automatically pathfind their way up there and, you know, realize that they need to use their broom and land up there. And no, you can't manually tell spellcasters to use their brooms to fly up there to the platform either. At least not when you're on the lot itself. Because what I didn't realize is that brooms depend on distance. What I'm trying to say is that you can only use a broom to fly to a place that is further away. So if you click on the ground next to your sim, it'll say go here. And if you click a bit further away, it'll say fly here. And so if your destination is on the same lot that your sim is currently on as well, then it's usually not far away enough. Which meant that the test sim that I brought here once the floor plan was done to test everything, just kept being like, no, I can't reach it, despite a broom being in her inventory. And speaking of which, as you may or may not know, I actually really dislike putting in the floor plan on camera because I get nervous. So I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. Yeah, and this here's what I just talked about, where I tested the little landing platform and discovered that the fly here option doesn't work quite the same way that I expected it would. So the landing platform isn't completely useless because your Sims can still land here from a distance, but getting here isn't really as easy as I was hoping. But luckily, spellcasters in this pack have another very cool way of getting from A to B, and that is the magic portals, which I discovered worked in quite an interesting way. I had no idea there was a correct and a wrong side. But so I simply reworked the floor plan to include these in order to get to that room upstairs, which, by the way, the floor plan is also done. Right now I have some filler furniture in all of the rooms that aren't going to be the final furniture. This is just kind of a way to mark what I want to do with that particular room for myself so I don't forget. I just showed off the entrance hall that leads into a little sitting room. This here is going to be the office. Not sure what I'm going to do with this room that's right next to it yet. This tiny one is obviously going to be a bathroom because nothing much else fits. And then here I have like a big dining room for all sorts of dinner and other parties. Upstairs here I just put 3 little bedrooms. There was also a landing platform out here, but I decided to get rid of that one because I didn't like how it looked. And then there is also a bathroom for the bedrooms up here. And then right next to them is the main bedroom for the sage, which you can see the portal in there. And there is also a little ensuite bathroom. And then all the way downstairs on the ground floor or first floor, there is a very big kitchen. And right next to it is this room that I decided to make into the servants' quarters. I don't think I'll actually have any like servants in my gameplay, but I thought this would be quite a cool addition. The same also goes for the stables, where I don't think I'll have horses in the end, but I could have some. Right next to it is the dungeon. Of course we have to build a dungeon. And in this last room I want to make like a workshop and just place a lot of the skill building objects that I want to have in here. Kind of like a miscellaneous room. Anyway, with the plans all set, I got to actually building this thing, and I started with the outside, where I very quickly started to put down some terrain paint, which is very brave. At the minute, and I believe for a very long time already, and it's probably still going to take a very long time until they fix this, but there is a terrain paint glitch where sometimes your entire terrain paint just, glitches away. It just disappears after you spend such a long time working on it. And I've seen a lot of people complain about it. It's actually never happened to me before, which is kind of crazy to think about. So it also doesn't happen to me here. But I kind of keep forgetting that it's a thing and just having a go at it with the terrain paint. So I was very risky, but luckily nothing happened. And in the beginning, I talked about how I'm making this build for my own gameplay. I'm thinking I should actually tell the story of what happened and how I got here, and how the Sage of Untamed Magic accidentally ended up being one of the main characters. Because these next couple of clips are pretty much self-explanatory, and hopefully it's not boring to you. I at least always find it really interesting to hear about what happened to other people when playing the game. So hopefully that applies to you too. So it all began quite a long time ago at this point, when one day I randomly felt like playing the Strangerville story again. And if you're new to The Sims, a lot of the expansion packs just throw you a bunch of items and gameplay your way, and then you can decide to do whatever you want with them. But with the Strangerville pack, it's a bit different because it already has like a pre-made story for you that you can play. And like I said, I randomly wanted to have a go at it again. And the fact that we are building this in Glimmerbrook right now, which is a completely different world, already tells you a lot about how things kind of got out of hand. But so the pack comes with a military career, right? So I was like, what if I don't just like make a random guy and then pretend that he got stationed here in Strangerville or whatever that's called when the military makes you go places. I'm not entirely sure, but I can pretend that that's the reason why he's here. And then obviously how he discovers that Strangerville is, well, strange. And so I basically played through that story. If you know what happens, you know what happens. If you don't know what happens, I don't want to spoil it. And it was a lot of fun, to be honest. I kind of feel like the whole Strangerville mystery story is a bit underrated in the community. Although I do, of course, also get why it's so heavily criticized a lot. I remember at one point, this guy that I kind of made friends with for the story randomly won the lottery, and then the guy who won the lottery was like a reoccurring character who would show up from time to time. You do also have to recruit a couple of people on your team in order to complete the story. Again, if you know, you know. And I recruited Mark, I believe that's his name. I can't exactly remember, but he's one of the townies. I also recruited the mayor because I felt like maybe, you know, he would wanna save his town and do something actually useful. And the third person that I recruited was this randomly generated scientist lady. And she becomes very important later on because I thought she and my guy were so very cute together. And so I had them have like a little love story and everything that, you know, got set up within a day or something because it's The Sims. And so eventually I managed to save the town and everybody was happy and yay and stuff. And I had been thinking about what I want to do once the town is free for a while before that. Because originally I was just going to play through the Strangerville story and then move on to another save and do something else perhaps. But I really liked the characters that I made, you know, my guy, the mayor, the guy who won the lottery, my scientist lady. So I really wanted to continue with the save, and I had such a cool idea. Once Strangerville was free, I had the idea to build like a little ranch out there and set up a cute little farm and everything. I mean, imagine just like a cool ranch with that pretty backdrop that Strangerville has. Plus, I could invite all my friends to live with me there. Especially that science lady, of course. Speaking of which, once Strangerville was finally free, I decided to have them get married. So I set up a little something next to the ugly camper van that I lived in. And it was pretty much just like a normal Sims wedding until disaster struck. Because your Sims can actually die from a couple of emotions. And one of them is if your Sims get too playful, they become hysterical, and eventually, if they don't calm down, they can die from that. And that is exactly what happened to my guy. So I managed to have them get married, but then while everybody was literally still sitting in their seats, he just dropped dead on their wedding day. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? Should I have the scientist lady go on and just like have, you know, the ranch herself? But then I thought, no, he's like my main character. He's the hero of Strangerville. I have to bring him back. And there are actually a couple of ways to do that. Like legitimately not using cheats. And one of those ways is to become a wizard / a spellcaster is what they're called officially. And level up, and eventually you can unlock a spell that can bring people back from the dead. And so I was like, change of plans. The scientist lady is now going to be a wizard lady / a witch lady / a spellcaster lady, whatever you want to call her. And this is where I need to take a quick detour because I need to talk about how I like to play with occult Sims. Because I like to make up extra rules around my occult Sims to make, you know, the gameplay more exciting and everything. Especially when it comes to the spellcasters, because the spellcasters are just so OP, in my opinion. I think I could go on and on and on about all of the things that I don't really like about the mechanics. I still really like spellcasters as a whole, but I feel like, you know, there are a lot of improvements that could be made. And the main thing is that I feel like spellcasters just don't really have much of a disadvantage to them, which makes them, again, super OP and also kind of boring. Vampires and werewolves both have weaknesses to them, but spellcasters don't really have anything like that. They do have things like curses or overcharged, but in my opinion, those don't really compare. So in order to make them more exciting, I had the idea, what if spellcasters are sort of part of their own secret society? And the rules are that once you are in the secret society, you cannot interact with anybody outside of the secret society. Which I think is a very cool idea, because not only is that actually something, you can easily pretend in your gameplay, but this does also feel like a real proper sacrifice when a sim decides to become a mage, or a spellcaster, or a witch, or a wizard, or whatever other words there are for it. I feel like I keep inventing more. So when my scientist lady decided to become a spellcaster, she basically had to say bye-bye to her previous life and all of her friends and so on and so forth. And so from that point on, she was constantly in the magic realm and constantly, grinding to become a better spellcaster, because that bringing back a sim to life spell is very high level, as you might expect. And it is also part of that untamed magic element, which meant that I had to become best buddies with that sage of untamed magic. You can kind of see how this is coming together. But so several days go by in game, and eventually I do manage to level her up, and I do manage to unlock that spell that can bring my guy back. And so, long story short, I bring him back. And with that, that could have been the end of it. Except that I thought that my spellcaster lady, previously scientist lady, maybe didn't want to leave the spellcasters. Because when you can have really cool magical powers, you don't want to give that up, right? But I would imagine that my guy would not be that happy with that. After all, he is literally like the hero of Strangerville. He's probably totally a goody two-shoes. And he most certainly would not want to be part of some cult that can bring people back to life, even if they brought him back to life as well. So I thought he would probably go up to her and make her choose. As in, he would be like, thanks for learning magic, thanks for bringing me back, but I don't really like magic. I don't really like the idea of bringing people back. So if you want to stay a spellcaster, that's cool, but then I don't want to be together with you. Or alternatively, you can leave the spellcasters and we can be together. And I thought the most logical way for her to answer would be to give up magic, because after all, she only learned magic for him. So that's exactly what I made her do. I made her give up her magic and turn back into a normal sim. And for a while, everything was cool. I finally started working on that ranch in Strangerville that I wanted to make for so long. I started building a house slowly with the money I had, and I even got some chickens, and I started a field. Oh, they also had a baby together. I almost forgot an entire child. Oops. And this is once again where we could have had our happy ending, or I don't know, just ending in general. But again, I thought when you're part of like a secret society that lets you do magic and everything, that probably does suck you in. So I thought that maybe the ranch life would be a little bit boring after all for my now farm lady, previously spellcaster lady, previously scientist lady. And so I thought maybe she should make the decision that this isn't for her after all. So she and my guy got divorced, and then one night she ran off and returned to the magic realm. And who was her best buddy there? That's right, the Sage of Untamed Magic. And so I thought it would make a lot of sense to have her ask him, which is, again, not Morgan with a Y. I don't know where they are. But so I had her ask him if maybe she could stay at his place. Except the sages don't have a place. They're always one of the sims that are not in world, as the game calls it, and kind of live in the void. So I needed to build him a house. And that is the very long story of why I am making this. Oh boy, in the time that it took me to talk about this, I finished the entire outside, and I also started working on the downstairs area. where right now I am making the dungeon, which honestly, much like the stables and the servants' quarters, I'm not actually sure if I will ever use this and put anybody in the dungeon. But honestly, I kind of secretly hope that I will, because I live for the drama. And next up, I took care of that miscellaneous room, and I just placed some cauldrons, I placed the flower arranging table, I placed that workbench, and just a bunch of planter boxes. Again, this is just going to be my everything room. I do think it's very useful to include something like this in your house because there are so many items in the game that you might want to use but that don't really fit anywhere. I mean, if you wanted to put the flower arranging table in your living room, maybe that might work out. But also I like to make my buildings quite small and quite cluttered, so doesn't really fit in a lot of spots afterwards. Oh, and then last but not least, I furnished the servants' quarters down here. The only servant that I will probably have is going to be Bonehilda, because I did make sure to include a seance table upstairs as well. And I feel like she fits in perfectly with this place. Like a fancy wizard mansion that has cool dinner parties. And then you look to the left, you look to the right, and there is like this skeleton maid. Yeah, that's right, that's perfect. When it comes to this room, I didn't really know what to make exactly. So I basically just made kind of like a little dorm room. And I did want to make it a bit dingy as well, because I imagine that, you know, we have like the fancy magic people upstairs who totally live a life of luxury, and then the people who work for them down here don't have it so well. And then the next couple of clips that are incoming are of me building a little shrine or something like that. I thought this wall looked a little bit empty, and so I was like, why don't I put something like that in there? This does mean that one of the cells in the dungeon are a little bit awkwardly shaped, but I think that's fine. And this once again ties into how I like to pretend that spellcasters are in their kind of little secret society. Maybe some deity is the reason that they get their magic powers. I don't really know what I want the law to be. Either way, this thing looks pretty cool. And once this thing was complete, that meant that the whole ground floor / first floor was complete. I should really just pick a system and go with that. But yeah, with that I moved on to the first floor or second floor. I did it again. And I started with the entrance hall, although my build process can be quite chaotic. I think I started making this and then halfway through I moved on to something else because I had ideas for something else. But let me talk about the interior in general in here, because I actually had a pretty good idea of what I wanted this to look like. I mean, I didn't know the exact items and stuff like that I wanted, but I very much knew what sort of vibe I envisioned for a house that belongs to a sage of Untamed magic. And one thing was immediately sure to me, which was that this person has to be an absolute maximalist. Like, there should be clutter and crazy patterns absolutely everywhere, because that's kind of also the vibes of Untamed magic, right? There is also the element of practical magic, and I feel like that sage's house would be much more clean and much more simple. And then there is also the sage of, what is it called again? Mischief magic, right? And I feel like their house should be pretty crazy as well. But yeah, when it came to this one, I wanted to use a bunch of colorful furniture and just a bunch of fancy patterns. And I was kind of doubting myself a little bit at first, but then the little sitting room that's right next to the entrance came together so well. And it kind of just set me up for the rest of it, because with that, I kind of knew what I was going for more so than I did before. And what I also thought of including in this house is basically a bunch of little knickknacks from everywhere. Because when you want to be a powerful spellcaster, you need to do a lot of grinding, as I discovered in my playthrough. But I would imagine that if you'd want to be a sage, which unfortunately your own Sims cannot become a sage, so we don't actually know how that would work, but I would imagine that, you know, the training for that would be even more hardcore and would maybe take you all around the world or something. And so maybe they have a lot of knickknacks from, you know, their trips to all of these places. But yeah, as you can see, here that sitting room is slowly coming together the way that I wanted it to. And I also thought of using these curtains from, I believe, For Rent, which I think are really, really ugly on their own. But in this context, I really like them. I feel like they're exactly the right vibes. Oh, and then I also had the idea to use the fish coffee table from, I think it's from My First Pet stuff actually. Which is also one of those things that on their own, I am not the biggest fan. I mean, I think the idea is kind of cool to have like a coffee table and there's an aquarium inside. But in most places, it would look absolutely ridiculous, honestly. But here, I think it makes a lot of sense because, duh, a fancy wizard who's kind of crazy a little bit would totally have like a fish coffee table. And you might be wondering, what happened in my save file after I built this house and started playing with it? Because like I said, this was a while ago. It always takes me quite a long time to make videos like this. And the truth is, I don't really know yet, because ever since then, I haven't really continued with the save file that much. So anything is kind of still possible at this point. But as for this household, I was thinking of just having the sage and my science lady, then spellcaster lady, then farm lady, then once again spellcaster lady now. Just have them fall in love and have their love story. Although, I don't know, I'll see what I do. Oh, by the way, the test sim that I've been playing with is that lady. I thought it would be very appropriate to bring her over to playtest everything. You can see her in some of the clips. I gave her like a fancy white witch outfit with this really big hat. I really like the sim a lot. I think she's very cool. As for my main guy, my hero Strangerville guy, I think I'm just going to continue working on the ranch and also raising that kid that I almost forgot I had. And maybe I could have him fall in love with somebody else again if I meet somebody cool, but I don't really care that much either. Anyway, right now I'm decorating the 3 little bedrooms that I made up here. These aren't really necessary, but I just thought that I can't have a house without bedrooms or with just 1 bedroom, especially not like a mansion. But I'm guessing this will be useful for stayover guests and so on. And I'm thinking there is lots of cool opportunity for gameplay and for like stories that I could make up with the fact that the sim is the sage. And so kind of an important figure, at least, I guess, maybe. That's another thing that really upsets me about Realm of Magic is how there seems to be lore kind of, but not really. It's like you have these sages, but what do they do? What is their purpose? Why are they there? And they never really tell you why. This is something that really upsets me with video games in general. I do get the sentiment of, oh, we want the player to make up their own story around this thing. But when you have like lore kind of halfway but not quite, that just really upsets me. I feel like if you're gonna have a little something, then at least do it all the way and at least tell us the purpose for, in this case, you know, these sages. I believe in the description of that lot that is in the magic realm, it says something along the lines of like, ooh, the whole magic realm could rip apart any minute, but luckily, you know, the 3 schools of magic, and I assume the sages? Wait, let me look up the actual description. Okay, I'm once again on the wiki for the magic realm. Does it say the description anywhere? Yeah, here. The magic realm is the source of all magic. Unfortunately, it is slowly being pulled apart by the swirling vortex surrounding it. The only thing that is keeping it together is the balance between the 3 houses of magic. each house has a sage that is the master in their respective style. If any imbalance is ever struck between these sages, the entire realm could collapse. Like, they hit you with that, but then there is no actual gameplay surrounding that. Like, from this description, I would assume that that means if the sages ever get into like a fight, that, you know, terrible things could happen and whatnot, and the magic realm could be ripped apart and inaccessible and whatnot, but no. Nothing will actually ever happen. Yeah, what was I talking about originally? Oh, right. I wanted to say that since my sim is one of the sages, maybe they could like train other people. Teach the basics of magic to them, kind of like a magic boot camp. But yeah, it appears we are done. So let me quickly show you the floor plan here. This is what it looks like from up above. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I feel like it's definitely giving fancy mansion. There are plenty of rooms, but it's also not too big. I mean, this lot is, oh my gosh, I cannot remember. Is it like a 30 by 20 or something? Maybe it's bigger than that, but surely not much bigger. Or is it like 30 by 40? I don't know. I'll pop it on screen for you. But yeah, here is also what it looks like from the outside, from all angles. I really also like the trees on the roof. I think I was talking about my gameplay earlier when I built that in the video. But basically I was thinking I have the red trees and the green grass at the bottom, but then I only have the green roof at the top and I need something red up there as well. And then I was like, wait, this place is magic. I can just put trees on the roof. I can do whatever. So I did, and I think it looks so cool. This entrance hall thingy that I'm showing off right now looks very cool as well. And then once you head upstairs, here's what the bedrooms look like. I gave all of them the same furniture and it's kind of a bit generic. Again, I don't really intend on using these too much, at least not at first. So I kind of kept it plain and simple. And if you were to go back downstairs and head through that archway that is to the left once you enter through the front door, you get into that really cool sitting room. There is also this random guy here. I don't know why he's here. I don't know why he's not wearing very many clothes. I'm kind of a bit scared. It's really weird. It's just random sims just keep introducing themselves to my builds while I playtest them. But yeah, I really like how this turned out. Again, I find the table super cool. Thank you, sir, for holding the door open for us. In here is the fancy office that I built. As you can see, this also has the portal that goes to the main bedroom. But in here, I just placed a bunch of bookshelves and a cauldron and also the sage's desk with a bunch of knickknacks on it. But yeah, with that, let's actually go through the portal and head upstairs. I don't know what magic sounds like, but yeah, this is the bedroom. Up here the camera gets a little funky, so I'm kind of struggling a little bit to show this off. My favorite part of this room is probably that circular window. I'm not sure if you can get a good look at it with the camera and stuff, but yeah, let's head back downstairs. I feel like I kind of did a bad job at showing that off, but yeah, here we are back in the office. Thank you so much, sir, once again for holding the door open. I'm still scared of this guy. But then as we walk along the hallway, this next door is the room where I wasn't so sure what I wanted to do with originally, but I ended up turning it into sort of like a meeting room, or maybe into a more of a casual dining room, in case the big one that we built ends up being a little too fancy for the occasion. And then through here we have the bathroom. Pretty much all the bathrooms in this building look exactly like this. I pretty much just copied and pasted the items. And then here is the very fancy dining room, the big one, that also has a balcony, by the way. And I did add a little extension to that balcony so that you can land here with your broom also, and it works. I playtested it. This is what it looks like from the outside, very cool. And then there is this door in the dining room that leads you downstairs into the basement. Well, it's actually the ground floor slash the first floor. I did it again. But so this is the kitchen. I really like it. And it also has an arch that leads you outside. And if you were to walk around the corner, you would get to the horse stables, which can you have and ride ghost horses? Maybe that's what I should get. I'll see about that. Either way, here's the dungeon. And this is not that special, not the best dungeon that I ever built, but pretty cool nonetheless. Can definitely fulfill its job. Yeah, and then right next to it was that miscellaneous room where I just basically stuffed a bunch of stuff in here. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I hope to see you again next week, where that time I will build finally a much smaller project, which is going to be an artist's apartment in San Myshuno. Bye!
Uh-huh. Dag.
Sewell,